Autobiographical is the visual representation of my life and a reflection of my upbringing. The story begins with a portrait of my parents, Gary and Holly. They met as a cook and a waitress at Eaton Park in 1984, which explains the smiley cookie next to them in the series. Painted behind them is a red curtain. This is to symbolize that the show is about to begin. The series is meant to take place in the course of one full day. Directly below my parents is a landscape painting of a sunrise. Not only does this show the start of a day, but it is also meant to represent the beginning of my life. That is why it is placed next to a portrait of myself on the day I was born. I was born on my grandmother's birthday on October 16th, 1994. For the background of this image, I use gold leaf to place a level of value and emphasize the pride I have for myself and for my family. I use gold leaf on each portrait of myself throughout the series for the same reason. If you look into my eyes of my baby picture, you will see that the irises are painted to look like Earth. This is symbolic of my determination to follow my dreams and my desires to explore the world. As the viewer's eye continues across the surface of the series, it leads to a depiction of my brother, sister, and I. Not only am I a younger brother, but I am an older brother as well. Gary and Haley were my first friends, and in some instances, my sworn enemies, just as I'm sure is the case with most siblings. They have influenced my life in countless ways, and I wouldn't be who I am without them. Painted below them is a depiction of stained glass windows with light shining through. Although I am not a religious man, I spent the first 10 years of my childhood attending Catholic school. The stories from the Bible were some of the first stories I was ever told. However, I spent most of my time in church idolizing and tracing the bright colors of stained glass windows with my eyes instead of paying attention to the services. Adjacent to the depiction of stained glass windows is a stack of old comic books. This image is placed closest to the viewer because comic books are a crucial part of my art and always have been. I was 8 years old when I bought my first comic book. This was undoubtedly the most important moment of my childhood. It was the first time I ever truly considered art as a major part of my life. Continuing to move across the series, we transition to the center of the show. This is adolescence, the introduction to public school, and a time when a child becomes a preteen and starts to feel like they know it all, when in fact they know nothing at all. This is where things start to get rough and the roller coaster called life starts to hit some bumps, which is why I begin with a roller coaster going up the track. The green coaster is easily recognizable to Kennywood's own Phantom's Revenge. Not only did I want to symbolize the changes of puberty, but I wanted to show my home. I grew up in West Mifflin, just down the ways from Kennywood. We could hear the screams from my house. I chose to make the centerpiece of the entire show a depiction of myself as a child, whining and screaming my head off, because life is hard and sometimes we all just want to scream. I use waves as a metaphor for the changes that happen that sometimes feel like you just got hit by a tidal wave. This could be anything and everything to an angsty preteen. Teenagerdom is that awkward phase when you're not quite an adult yet, but no longer a child. Moving forward, the next image is an airplane taking off to show that this time of life is only temporary and that something new is coming. I was also given the opportunity to fly a plane on my 17th birthday and have always been interested in aviation. Prior to art, I wanted to grow up to be a pilot. The next three images are the representation of my time in high school. The first image at the top left is of my car, which has always been my dream car. It's a 2002 Jeep Wrangler. One of the happiest days of my life was getting that car, and one of the saddest days was sitting on the side of the highway knowing that the engine had blown and that I'll never drive her again. Below my Jeep is the love of my life. I'll never forget the day I introduced myself to Jessica. She was 14 and I was 15 at the time. It was at a house party of a mutual friend. We didn't go to the same high school, and the person whose party it was also went to a different high school. It's crazy to think of the circumstances that led to our relationship, but we'll be celebrating 8 years this year. The painting is a representation of a high school desk covered in writings and doodles, typical of any desk I sat at in high school. On the desk is a pencil, a composition notebook, a photograph of Jessica and I at prom, and a large colorful bracelet. The bracelet is actually the first gift Jessica ever gave me way back when we first started dating. This time of my life was paradise. I felt like I had it all, and like nothing could stop me. I use a palm tree to symbolize this peaceful, easy feeling. The final 4 images show the changes that have occurred following high school. The first image in the bottom left is of myself as a pink-haired 18-year-old freshman flicking off the viewer. This is to show that period of life when you're given your first taste of freedom. Behind me in the image is a bright red stop sign with the image of a crow on a paintbrush on it. With this newfound freedom came the desire to test the boundaries. So I spent most nights during this time going around Pittsburgh and leaving my mark across the city. No stop sign was safe. However, I ultimately chose to stop doing graffiti to focus on a professional career in art. Above this image is the sun setting over a Pennsylvania highway. This shows the end of my time not only as a college student, but as a child as well. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I do intend on seeing the world and leaving my home when the time is right. To the right of this is the view from the seat of an airplane that overlooking the sun setting on the horizon. I want to show that the plane that took off earlier in the series is soaring high and that I am embracing the change that is coming. Finally, the show ends with Jessica and I clinking our glasses of champagne together in front of the night sky glowing with fireworks. This body of work is celebrating my life, and what better way to end the series than with the celebration? Autobiographical consists of 19 paintings across one structure to show one life through the course of one day. Because in the end, all you're given each morning when you wake up is one day. How will you spend it? Hopefully following your dreams and doing what you love.